Why do you think Tom Barak returned to Beirut so soon after his previous visit? What's new or different this time?
Good afternoon to you and your dear viewers. Syria-Lebanon crisis always been exchanged and affect each other. And following the Iran strike and the Suaida crisis, the ceasefire truce between Lebanon and Israel was failed and gave Barak's the US envoy thought as negative impact and of not reaching any outcome with the surrendering Hezbollah's arm. Also, the arrivals of Barak's in this time yesterday, his return is some sort of an ultimatum for Lebanon that came to, or rather, his rhetoric was very harsh compared to the previous one, and also made four meetings before arrivals to Lebanon, all of which was overwhelmed with negatives features that give them a very dark image of Lebanon, and these are some very negative indications for the Libyan stance, as it seems that is heading to the unbalanced war against Lebanon, different from the last approach into change the Lebanese de facto, particularly that Hezbollah refused, or rather rejected, the conditions and never surrendered. There's no disagreement with Amal movements, and there is no disagreement with the Lebanese regime. It's not taken the initiative for or to pursue them or just to transfer the conditions into the US envoy, as Hezbollah laid down in a very main condition with the Israeli withdrawal, and also some sort of a deadline of surrendering the ballistic missiles. So the conditions laid down by Hezbollah are very high that derailed the negotiation. And it seems that the U.S. envoy that he had some sort of a very tight roadmap without any other options to impose the agreement forcibly in Lebanon, as it took place before of 60 days as a timeline, and there is no other features of positive impact.
Sir, do you believe this renewed visit was prompted by a directive from US President Donald Trump, or was it in response to a request by Lebanese officials due to internal developments at this point?
The Hezbollah is holding very much grips in Lebanon, and there is no fear as in Lebanon, as all the parties with no strings. The Hezbollah is the main player in Lebanon, so it's controlling the keys of the state in the political level, and the authority or the ruler in Lebanon isn't able to take a very harsh resolutions in maintaining all the balances along with Hezbollah's grip. So the Lebanese regime isn't going to make any initiative to be forced, given the fact that the roadmap of Israel to be laid down in Lebanon and to break down the priorities in Lebanon as Lebanon isn't like Syria or Iraq and Gaza, but Lebanon maintained the only choice as it was before in the Syrian regime. And Lebanon has the same priorities and rapprochement to the Israeli enemies. No one in Lebanon would choose the normalization or the Abraham Accord will became some sort of an stumbling block as the Israeli advancements in Lebanon of 15 kilometers would weaken the Israeli-Syrian negotiations. As for the Israelis' forces to be away towards the south of Lebanon, so Hezbollah will be managed to strike the Israeli forces in the future in case to have the Syrian file to be tightened forcibly by al-Shara without putting a solution for Hezbollah in Lebanon and without having any solutions for the Israeli-Syrian negotiation, won't be having any decisive moment in Lebanon.
Perfect, sir. Barak stated that the ceasefire agreement between Hezbollah and Israel has not succeeded. Why do you think he chose to acknowledge this now, despite the ongoing Israeli violations since November by occupying 5 strategic points and carrying out near daily attacks in southern Lebanon, or Beirut, sorry?
Up till now, Israel considers that Hezbollah never implemented 1701 agreement fully. There are some holes, arms infrastructures in the southern of Litani, as Israel considers the north and the south of the Litani is included in the agreement, but Hezbollah thinks that only the southern of Litani, as a 5 strategic point, controlled by Israel to protect the Israeli north of the settlement. Therefore, in case of Lebanon to withdraw, Israel will be having difficulties to protect its settlement. And it is a must for Israel to breach such an agreement. In parallel, this exchange breach by Israel in Lebanon is a necessity for a mutual protection to these forces that opponent to the Israelis forces, and for this reason Israel did not withdraw from such a 5 strategic point. And before to make sure that the 1701 to be implemented and Israeli withdrawals, other than that, will be having no initiatives with this regard. As for Hezbollah, not to be embarrassed before its base, won't be to doing any initiative to surrender its arms before having a timetable for Israel to withdraw from such points.
Sir, although Barak admitted that truce has failed, he also emphasized that Washington remains committed to resolving the situation. How can the United States claim to support regional stability while simultaneously asserting that it cannot force Israel to do anything with respect to the ceasefire?
The Lebanese state been very much affected throughout history that cannot impose its conditions upon the Lebanese arenas, as Hezbollah has, and very much capabilities, and along with the Shiite extension throughout Lebanon. As for America, it seems that isn't neutral, not to support the Lebanese army in case of not obliged to the international agreement, as Saudi Arabia is playing a very pivotal role to secure the agreement. But it seems up till now the situation is unsatisfactorily. Lebanon did not implement its agreement despite the Western Arab is condition. And it seems that Lebanon's future will include some sort of continence and mobile targets compared to the previous rapprochement and imposing conditions to the Lebanese state on the level of governance along with the infrastructure of Hezbollah. But Hezbollah's capability won't be able to respond due to its great damages as its capabilities of arms, around 80% were damaged. And in order to maintain its military stature within Lebanon, as it has some or a few of drones that are very much to improve itself, but unlike what's been happening previously with Israel. So don't we have no response in case of Lebanon being invaded militarily, but not to maintain its position, to maintain its posture, to keep its activities within Lebanon?
To what extent does Barak's assertion reflect the limits of American influence over Israel in peace negotiations, and how might this affect Lebanon's confidence in the United States as a neutral mediator, sir?
Can you please repeat the question?
Of course, sir. To what extent does Barak's assertion reflect the limits of American influence over Israel in peace negotiations, and how might this affect Lebanon's confidence in the United States as a neutral mediator, sir?
Lebanese state is making double standards with respect to lay down conditions that are very hard. So the Lebanese state is taking double standards, a stance that maintain ties, balance with the Arab Western countries such as Saudi Arabia, America and France as a partners, along with the neighboring countries as wishing for a new Middle East. And Abraham Accord of normalization with Israel being laid down. Therefore, the Lebanese state is postponing and installing to execute in fear of its reflections internally, as is trying to postpone the matter into several phases, awaiting of the emerge of different developments or a change of the stance or exchanging situation in the Middle East.